Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us for this very timely presentation on AI and the hiring process. It is my pleasure to introduce Karen Marchetti, founder of Avery Grace Careers, who, for the past 18 years, has been a successful recruiter and career coach, developing methods and programs to help both the employer and employees succeed in their goals.
Thank you so much, Jay. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been looking forward to this all week. I'd given several people a sneak peek at some of the things we're going to cover, and they all had the same reaction. I never knew that. So I can't wait to jump right in because we are going to cover a lot of information. Today, I'm going to walk you through very specifically what goes on behind the curtain in the hiring process. Now, some of you are or have been hiring managers yourselves and are saying to yourselves, I already know how it works. Yes, you do, but I'm going to fill in the parts that you don't have any reason to have learned as a hiring manager, but now as a candidate, you need to know. So we will go through what AI is and how it is used in the hiring process already and how it impacts you as a candidate seeking the next step in your career. The definition of AI is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, etc. And the definition of machine learning in artificial intelligence is a discipline concerned with the implementation of computer software that can learn autonomously. In other words, for us mere mortals, software that can be trained through the use of algorithms to apply filters and extrapolate a future outcome based on past outcomes. That all sounds a bit esoteric, but in reality, you may be using it already on a daily basis. We've all heard a lot about ChatGPT, but even facial recognition on your phone is a form of AI. Like it or not, it is extremely common and almost ubiquitous. Therefore, it's not a surprise that AI is integrated into the hiring process. The question is, how? Well, in order to answer that question, we first have to understand the steps on the employer side by which the recruiting and hiring process works. So when I was a recruiter in corporate America, as well as in third-party recruiting, our processes ran the same way that pretty much every company today runs. A hiring manager would tell me what position they wanted filled. We would go over the job description together. Then, once I felt I understood their requirements sufficiently, I would go into our applicant tracking system, otherwise known as an ATS, and create a job requisition, essentially the job description that will be posted to our website and to the job boards. During that process, I was able to enter keywords or phrases that I wanted to see as the applicants were applying online, and I might have 6 or 8 of those keywords. And I was able to specify how many of them I wanted to see in the resume or application before I would review it. The reason I did that was we always had a fair number of completely unqualified candidates apply. You know, the recent college grad who for sure feels they would be qualified as a vice president of operations for a large multinational company, despite having had no experience as such. So it made sense to filter out those sorts of junk responses. So, gatekeeper number 1 is the keywords. For example, I recently coached a VP level candidate who had been in charge of buying everything that a large hotel chain would need. For more than 10 years, his title had been Director of Purchasing or a VP of Purchasing. But now the nomenclature has changed to where now the term procurement is being used. So in that case, he did not have the right keyword. And as a result, positions he was perfectly qualified for, he was automatically disqualified because he did not have the right keywords in his resume. And while we're talking about keywords, one way in which AI algorithms may be biased against older candidates is through the use of age-related keywords. For example, if an algorithm is designed to look for candidates with recent or fresh experience, it may inadvertently exclude older candidates who have been out of the workforce for a period of time. Similarly, if an algorithm is designed to prioritize digital natives or those who are comfortable with the latest technology, it may exclude older candidates who did not grow up with the same level of exposure to technology. Basically, if you go out and look at the job descriptions for the positions for which you are targeting and feel that you have the qualifications for, you will begin to get a sense of what some of those keywords may be. Now, for our resume writers here at Avery Grace, that would then shape how they would write the resume, what we need to focus on, how do we weave those keywords in and then quantify them and back them up. So this gatekeeper can be circumvented by using your best knowledge to align your resume to those keywords while not over-representing. Getting back to the process of recruiting and hiring, now, once the requisition is created in the applicant tracking system, otherwise known as the ATS, it gets pushed out to one or more job boards. There are many of them out there, such as Indeed, which is an aggregator where employers can post for free. ZipRecruiter is also very popular and posts your resume to over 100 different boards. So there are many similar applications that perform the function of matching candidates with open job requisitions. And this is a very common and simple task so far. Now, in the ATS itself, as well as in the job boards, there are algorithms programmed in addition to the keywords or filters I put in, that will be evaluating the applicant's fit with the role. Now, these algorithms are not transparent. They are what is called black box algorithms, meaning they are proprietary to the developer. So the licensees and users do not know how they work. They cannot see the inner workings of the program, which are, in a general sense, impenetrable. Remember we talked about AI having the ability to learn autonomously, so sometimes even the developers may be surprised about the conclusions the program has decided are the case. For example, let's say that as a recruiter or hiring manager, I'm seeking a director of marketing for a technology company. The job requisition then gets pushed out to an aggregator, then the aggregator publishes it, then your friendly AI looks at the universe of candidates who have that title in technology companies and pushes that via email to candidates in the data universe. And that happens at the level of the job board. Sounds reasonable, right? And it is, at least until it isn't. Let's suppose that AI finds the highest percentage of people with that title have 11.5 years of experience, have changed jobs roughly every 5 years, have attended certain specific institutions of higher learning, etc. AI will then target those demographics. Now, what happens if you're a candidate age 45 or over, say? You probably are outside the range because you have too much experience. If you attended a traditionally black college, you may be outside the range if graduates of that institution have not previously held many of these jobs. If you did not play certain sports in college, you may be outside the range. If you are female, you may be outside the range. Just recently, there was an expert on the Last Week Tonight show on HBO talking about the impact of AI on individuals conducting job searches. And you can find that on YouTube for free, and I would tell you it's well worth watching. He had on an expert that referred to the groups of qualified candidates AI was identifying as having pale male syndrome because many of the roles had more traditionally been filled with white males. And if I remember correctly, one role that she looked at actually preferred early career, college-educated men who had played rugby in college. So I can tell you, if I were looking for a job today, it's been a long time since college, and I definitely did not play rugby when I was there. So I too am out of the universe of qualified candidates based on AI. So continuing on in the process, these emails are being pushed out to the likely passive candidates, some of whom apply. I, as the recruiter, am being presented with qualified candidates, but not necessarily a diverse array of qualified candidates. If I want to be sure I do get a diverse array, I have to proactively review the resumes in an active search that are in a rejected folder. And I can tell you, when I was a corporate recruiter, there was no time for that. So therefore, that perpetuates the problem. So when we think about the fact that, Indeed claims to have over 200 million resumes, and ZipRecruiter has about 32 million, and Indeed is much larger because they are international. When you add that together with the fact that we don't really know how they work, despite having a major impact on people trying to make a living, and we've already seen that there's a potential for bias in the way the machine learning takes place, we can see that a lot of people are impacted by this, even if they don't know it. Now, as an employer, if your job ad is on Indeed, you can pay to have it sponsored, and that will put your post at the top. If you choose to post for free, after that, your couple of days, your job will fall back behind the newer searches. But there's also a place to add deal breaker questions. And this is a quote right from Indeed's website. To make the most of cost per application pricing, consider including one or more questions if your job requires certain qualifications, and check the box labeled deal breaker next to the questions that require an exact response. Note, deal breakers are mandatory requirements that you need from a candidate to perform the job successfully. Applications that don't meet the requirements you set through deal breakers are automatically rejected. You won't receive application emails or be charged for applications marked as rejected, but you can still access any candidate Indeed has marked as rejected from the Rejected tab in the employer dashboard. End quote. So the job boards make money on employers paying for premium postings, but if that doesn't happen, or even if it does, they still get to charge for resume views or applications. So those views can be generated by pushing emails out to a universe of active or passive candidates whose resumes or social media profiles are posted online. So I get a lot of those myself. I'm sure you do too. Hey, we think this job is a fit for you. Have a look. Interestingly enough, when I test it, I have found that if I apply, I don't hear anything. So my conclusion, and I hear this a lot from candidates too, my conclusion is that there are a lot of times that's the point at which I get screened out. When I hit that algorithm, there is something in my profile that is a deal breaker. Let me ask you a question. What would you do if you were in a position where you're not getting interviews, you're not getting those pushed emails? Well, honestly, I cannot claim that I have an instant fix for that. What I do have, though, are some things that I have developed that work a lot of the time. Number one, as far as the keywords, the solution to that one is the most straightforward. Study the job postings, analyze how the keywords are occurring, and then build the resume to highlight those accomplishments around them. Or hire a certified resume writer to do that. Me personally, I would not ever write my own resume because I know for a fact that resume writers know way more about how to do that in a way that represents me the best and aligns to the ATS systems. But you can certainly give it a try, see how you do, and then if you need to send it out, you always can do so. Now, as far as the AI gatekeepers, that's a little harder and requires a little bit more work. First, there are obviously things that potentially employers are not supposed to ask. Gender, age, race, religion would be examples of that. So one thing that you can do where possible is you don't have to hand an employer information that they do not have a right to ask. For instance, in general, I recommend to not list more than 10 to 15 years of experience on your resume. If your resume goes back to experience that you had in the 80s or 90s, or your year of college graduation is back then, it does not take a rocket scientist to figure out your age. If you were involved in a social organization that celebrated your race or religion, certainly something to be proud of, but may not be the most valuable item to take up real estate on your resume. So give it a review and see if there are any areas that you can neutralize without sacrificing quality content. Secondly, I recommend that you follow up on your applications with a direct contact by phone, email, or LinkedIn message. That way, you can close that gap. If your application is not getting into that universe on its own or is going into the rejected folder, that may get it to be pulled out. And those outreaches should be structured very specifically to hit that pain point or major initiative of the job. I'm not going to spend too much time on this particular topic, but here at Avery Grace, we do have some tools that we may be able to help you out to have access to those contacts, those hiring manager contacts. So if that is something that you need to do, shoot me an email or LinkedIn message for more information. Similarly, you should always be reaching out to your own network, and there are many articles out there on how to do that. I almost forgot to mention that there is one more way AI may be being used to screen you out, and it's called body language analysis. Have you ever been asked to do a video interview, either live or recorded? There is a good chance that it is not merely for a scheduling convenience. I once was contracted with a top-tier aerospace company that exclusively relied on recorded interviews to evaluate their candidates. Recorded interviews are when the employers send the candidate a link, which they follow, and are presented a series of questions on the screen. The candidates are videotaped using the camera on their laptop or smartphone while they provide the answers. And this was not definitely something that the candidates liked, even when they had some preparation. The employer was then running those videos through an AI body language analyzer to get a computer-generated report on how truthful they were, their general level of self-confidence, and other personality aspects. Now, I am not a body language analyst, nor do I even play one on TV, but I feel like there are so many reasons why someone would touch their nose or seem nervous or shift their eye focus during an interview. I once had a candidate that had bugs fly up their nose repeatedly during an interview. I mean, seriously, anything can influence that. So this one is a bit tougher to counter, although knowledge is power. Make sure there are no distractions while you're doing your video. Be aware of your body movements and stay focused on your task. So in sum, AI has become deeply embedded in the hiring process at multiple intervals. This can make it extremely challenging and frustrating when you have excellent qualifications but can't seem to get hired or possibly even interviewed. However, with more knowledge, you can move forward with a greater sense of power and, more importantly, begin experiencing greater success in the job search process. And there's some good news also, including that 25% of students at historically black colleges and universities are interested in STEM. And prestigious HBCUs have been devoting a lot of resources into attracting students into those disciplines. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me to learn about AI and how it impacts your job search. Don't hesitate to reach out following the webinar if you have any questions or if you would like personal assistance in evaluating and fine-tuning your resume to circumvent the hurdles of AI. My personal email is Karen, at averygracecareers.com or message me directly on LinkedIn, and I will be happy to help you as much as I can. In the meantime, best of luck in all you do.